We usually kick off talking about, well, the usual buzz around Kinshasa. Maybe what's happening at Kinshasa Mall.
Yeah, normally it's about like weekend plans or grabbing some Indicala. Pretty relaxed stuff.
Exactly. But lately, the mall's been making headlines for, well, very different reasons. Some unexpected stuff.
That's true. Yeah, instead of the usual shopping stories, we've been seeing these reports pop up about security incidents, both at and actually near the mall. Definitely got people talking.
It really has.
Right.
So today, we thought we'd, dive into what exactly happened, especially on Monday, April 28th. We've been checking out the local news feeds, Extra30, kitinfo.com, and mboto.cd.
The usual suspects for keeping us plugged into what's going on here.
Right. And it's fair to say the initial information flying around was a bit confusing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there were different stories, different angles. Some people were saying attempted robbery. Others were talking about, like, a clash with security guards or something.
Okay, so our mission today in this deep dive is basically to try and piece together a clearer picture from what these local outlets reported and, figure out what it all means for us, for the community here.
Sounds good. Where should we start? Act 30? Maybe.
Yeah, let's start there. What was Extra30 focusing on, their main angle?
Okay, so Act 30, their main report was actually about an incident in the evening. It happened over on Avenue du 24 Novembre.
Oh, okay. Not actually at the mall then, this specific one.
No, exactly. That's important. It was near the Higher School of Commerce, the old ISC building, and kind of close to the Provincial Police HQ.
Right, I know the spot.
Yeah.
So that clarification is key because, I think a lot of the initial buzz mixed things up, making it sound like everything happened right at the mall entrance.
Act 30 made that distinction. They said this evening commotion wasn't an attempted robbery at Kinshasa Mall itself.
Okay, so what did cause the commotion then, according to them?
Well, their report points to a dispute, apparently between some security agents from the National Intervention Legion, the LNI.
The LNI. Part of the National Police, right?
That's them. So a dispute between LNI agents and a civilian.
A dispute? Do they say what it was about?
It seems like it started over an argument about a bribe involving a driver. And crucially, the report mentioned these agents were wearing non-regulation black uniforms.
Non-regulation uniforms.
Okay, that's interesting. So how did it escalate?
It sounds like things got heated. And then a civilian apparently got involved, grabbed one of the agent's weapons.
Oh, really? Seized a weapon?
Yeah, that's what the report says. And then real bullets were fired. Live rounds.
Okay, that's serious. Firing live rounds on Avenue du 24 Novembre. Did anyone get hurt?
Thankfully, no. Extra30, they cited police sources saying no lives were lost in that evening incident, which is, a huge relief.
Definitely a relief. Any arrests made?
Yeah, the police confirmed they arrested one person there, and they're looking for others who were involved.
And what about those uniforms, the non-regulation ones? That's a big point. The police apparently promised a full investigation into why these armed agents were there, in those uniforms. Raises a lot of questions, doesn't it?
It really does. Who are they? Who sent them,
Yeah.
Lots to unpack there.
And just quickly, Act 30 also mentioned another separate thing in Lemba, initially reported as a robbery, also under investigation. Apparently, the CIAD commander there is being questioned about why they weren't around. So Monday was quite a day, security-wise.
Sounds like it. Okay, so that's the evening incident near the police HQ, covered by Act 30. Let's shift gears then. What about kitinfo.com? Their focus seemed different, right? More about the mall itself, earlier in the day.
Exactly. KidInfo zeroed in on something that happened Monday morning around 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Right at the main entrance of Kinshasa Mall.
10 a.m.? Okay. And how did they describe that incident?
They called it a violent attempted intrusion, and they added that it was quickly neutralized.
Violent attempted intrusion. Okay, that sounds pretty direct. What details did KidInfo provide on that?
They reported that armed individuals literally tried to force their way into the mall.
Armed individuals? Wow, okay.
Yeah. But KidInfo really emphasized the role of the mall's own security system. Apparently, it alerted the authorities really fast.
Ah, so the security setup there worked. Triggered an alarm.
Seems like it. Which led to a very quick, coordinated response from security forces. Police Nationale Congolais, likely.
So, good coordination between the mall's private security and the PNC.
That's what it sounds like. KidInfo reported that when the police arrived, there was an actual exchange of fire. Gunshots between the attackers and the security forces.
An exchange of fire at the mall entrance? That's intense.
Definitely. But they managed to arrest one of the assailants. KidInfo specified it was one who had actually opened fire.
Okay, so one arrest made right there. And critically, what about injuries? Any civilians caught in the crossfire?
Again, thankfully no. KidInfo also reported 0 injuries among civilians, just like the evening incident Action 30 covered.
That's incredibly fortunate, given shots were fired. 2 incidents, armed individuals, gunfire, and no civilian casualties reported in either. That's the main positive here.
Absolutely. It could have been much worse.
So KidInfo mentioned 1 attacker arrested. What about the others involved in this morning intrusion?
They got away. KidInfo said they fled the scene and a search operation was underway to find them.
Okay, ongoing search. Did KidInfo mention any official police comments?
They did. They actually quoted a PNC spokesperson praising the vigilance of their teams, and specifically mentioning the good collaboration with Kinshasa Mall's private security.
Right, highlighting that partnership again. Seems crucial for a place like that.
Totally. KidInfo also mentioned the area around the mall was temporarily locked down.
Makes sense. Standard procedure, I guess. Secure the scene, talk to witnesses.
Pretty much. They needed to gather evidence, figure out what the motive was. Was it just a straight-up robbery attempt? Or something else, maybe intimidation? KidInfo suggested the motive wasn't immediately clear.
Right, the why behind it. Still a bit murky, but things did get back to normal eventually.
Yeah, they reported that by around noon, the situation was declared under control. Traffic started moving again, businesses reopened, but with, heightened security still in place.
Which makes sense, and KidInfo also added some context, right? Saying the mall had already beefed up security recently.
Yeah, they mentioned that. Apparently because of a general rise in petty crime in the area, so they were already sort of on higher alert.
Interesting context. Anything else from KidInfo?
Just the standard but important public appeal for vigilance. Stay aware, report suspicious stuff. And they reminded everyone of the police hotline 112.
Good reminder. Always good to have that number handy. Okay, so that gives us KidInfo's perspective on the morning incident. What about our third source, embo.cd? Did they cover this too?
They did, yes. embo.cd also reported on what happened Monday at the mall.
And how did they frame it? Similar to KidInfo.
Pretty similar, yeah. They described it as a failed robbery attempt. So, slightly different wording from intrusion, but essentially the same kind of event.
Failed robbery attempt.
Okay.
And the details, did they match up?
Largely, yes. embo.cd also mentioned criminals trying to get into the mall, and specifically that one of them opened fire.
Okay, so that detail about shots being fired by an assailant seems consistent between KidInfo and embo.cd.
Definitely. And embo.cd also confirmed the rapid security response and the fact that one perpetrator was arrested right there.
It's a scene. And confirmed others got away?
Yep, same story there. Others escaped, investigation ongoing to find them.
So the core facts of the morning incident seem pretty solid across those two sources. Did embo.cd add any commentary or broader perspective on it?
They did, actually. They really leaned into the angle of public concern. Saying this kind of incident, especially at such a popular, well-known place like Kinshasa Mall.
Yeah, it makes people uneasy. Exactly. embo.cd highlighted that it raises serious questions for citizens about security in commercial spaces in public areas generally.
I can see that. If it happens at the mall, where else?
Right, that was their point. They specifically mentioned the need for authorities to really step up security measures across public areas in Kinshasa. They linked it to what they see as an increase in criminal activity overall in the city.
That's a significant point embo.cd is making there. It connects this specific incident to a potentially wider trend, or at least a wider concern about safety. Kinshasa Mall is, it's a hub. So yeah, an incident there definitely resonates.
For sure. It hits close to home for a lot of people.
Okay, so we've looked at Action 30 on the evening incident, KidInfo and embo.cd on the morning one at the mall. Let's try to sort of synthesize this. What are the key takeaways when you put all these reports together?
Well, first, even though there were slightly different labels used, attempted intrusion versus failed robbery for the morning event, the basic facts seem consistent between KidInfo and embo.cd. Something definitely happened at the mall entrance Monday morning. Right. And Action 30 clearly detailed a separate, distinct incident later that evening nearby on Avenue du 24 November involving LNI agents.
Correct. 2 separate things on the same day. And the absolute most critical takeaway, repeated across the sources for both incidents,
is that thankfully no fatalities were reported, no civilians killed or seriously injured based on these initial reports.
Exactly. That's huge. We also see clear evidence, especially from KidInfo and embo.cd, of a quick security response at the mall itself.
And that collaboration between the mall's private security and the national police seems to have been effective in that morning situation.
It appears so. But then you have the other side of the coin from Acts 30's report. These questions about non-regulation armed agents involved in that evening dispute. That raises concerns about oversight and command structure, potentially.
Yeah, that's a whole other layer. And then there's the broader context that both KidInfo and mboat.cd touched on this backdrop of maybe increasing crime, or at least increasing concern about crime in Kinshasa.
Which inevitably affects how secure people feel.
Right, so, for you listening, how does hearing all this land? Does this kind of news change how you think about your own safety when you're moving around the city?
Does it make you look at a place like Kinshasa Mall, somewhere maybe you go often, a bit differently now?
These are definitely the questions that come up. It's important stuff for us living here.
Absolutely. We all share this space.
So just to wrap up the key points then, we had these two distinct security incidents on Monday. One at the mall, 10 a.m.-ish, described as an attempted intrusion or robbery. Another later evening time, Avenue du 24 Novembre, involving a dispute with security agents.
Arrests were made in both cases. Investigations are ongoing. And crucially, let's reiterate, no reported fatalities in either incident, according to these local news sources.
That's the vital piece. It's also worth thinking about the different potential motives, right?
Yeah.
Was the mall incident purely about grabbing cash? Or something else?
In the evening incident, just a bribe argument gone very wrong? Or were there deeper issues with those specific agents? Lots of unanswered questions still.
Exactly. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. What does this cluster of events on one Monday tell us, if anything, about the security pulse of Kinshasa right now? And what further questions pop into your mind about safety, about law enforcement, about how things work here after hearing these reports?
Definitely some food for thought. Something to mull over until we chat next time on Kinshasa Today.